and I want to welcome, I'm Angela Austin, a Program Improvement Specialist for the Western region of the state, and I want to welcome you to our new documentation training. In the past, the documentation has been quite cumbersome, and we kind of looked at everything at our in-house retreat, and we ask you guys to do documentation for us, but you're also doing documentation for Title I and for DJJ, many of you. So what we decided to do is to sit down and take a look at the requirements for each of those entities and see if maybe we can streamline our process to make it easier for you guys. So that was kind of the reason behind all of the training or all of the talk about, streamlining the process. That's how it came to be. And the way we're going to compile it is also very different this year. So everything we've done to try to make your life easier. So here we go. We want to talk a lot about it, and there's even going to be some differences in compilation. So here we go. I want to start out by talking about how you're going to organize your materials. In the past, we've done the advanced ed, which is now Cognia. We've gone by those standards and indicators, and you have provided documentation for each of those. And has been confusion about, well, I have this piece of information, where should I put it? Where does it best meet the criteria listed under that standard or indicator? So what we've decided to do is to give you a list of required evidence that we need to see and some what we call bonus indicators. So I want to get right into what is going to be required and what's considered bonus. So I am going to, I hope, share my screen. So here we go. Here's the list of documentation that you're going to be required to provide for us. And these are really the same things we've always required, just organized in a different way. So you'll see here that you have the program self-assessment. We're going to continue to do that. It's a very valuable tool for you guys to sit down and maybe have a staff meeting and reflect on where you really think you are with those 9 indicators. And then it's also helpful for Peggy and me in that we get an idea of where you see your program. So it's a really good reflective tool and can be very helpful in making improvements in your programs. We have listed like an ILP, and it says provide 2 student samples. A lot of people get kind of carried away and they give us lots. Really, we only need 2. And the same thing with the ILPA and individual treatment plans. 2 is great. Individual graduation plans, IGPs. Want to stop here and talk a little bit about this. We would like to see things such as a checklist of their credits. I mean, how many credits and which credits do those students have? Also, maybe a graduation checklist. Have they already completed the civics test? Have they already completed the financial literacy? Where are we on our career pathways? That's something else excellent to include. And I would also say that we need to include transcripts. I think we discussed that later, but in case we don't get there and I forget, we really would like to see some transcripts for students, at least 4 or 5 with, differing grade levels. Like you might give us a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. But we really would like to see those because there has been some discussion about transcripts and credits not transferring or, earning lots of credits in one place. So those are kinds of things we like to look at. So just if you would please include 4 or 5 transcripts and preferably 1 for each grade level. The next thing I want to talk about is the MTSS, Multi-Tiered Systems of Supports. That was formerly RTI. Give us an outline of what your intervention plan is. Like, what do you do for Tier 1? What are you doing in Tier 2? So on and so forth. Don't have to specifically see a student, one of those with the student's names, but it would be excellent to see what your plan is, your interventions, and how that works. With the IEPs, 504s, everybody will probably have an IEP, so we definitely want you to include one of those. But I want to caution you to make sure that you redact any identifying information on those. Identifying information would be things such as student name, even the student number, because that can be, referenced, and, you could use that to look up who that student is. So be sure to redact all of that information. We want to keep those things as confidential as possible. And you may or may not have a 504 plan. If you have one, please include it. Also, a gifted student service plan, that might be something you may not have, but if you do, include that for us. It's not totally unheard of that our kids would have a gifted plan. So, let's see that. Also required is a grading scale. So and make sure that you send that along, because there's not a statewide uniform grading scale, and that's very helpful for us to see. The next thing on our list is the staffing list, and you guys are really good about including names, but let us know, what's their title. Is John Doe a teacher, and is, Fred Smith an instructional assistant? Give us an idea of what their role is there with you in your school. Master schedule with instructional minutes. We all know that 360 instructional minutes are required. So be sure that you include your master schedule. And when we total that all up, we should have at a minimum 360 minutes of instruction per day. Also, there's a lot of valuable information we can glean from your Kentucky School Report Card. So if you could please include a link to that Kentucky School Report Card for your school. And that way we can click on it and get lots of valuable information. We will need to see your KEXAC Memorandum of Agreement. That'll be something that you'll need to include. Assessment samples. Let's talk about this for just a minute. We would like to see one teacher-developed assessment per teacher, and just a list of the standardized assessments that you all give, things such as the TABE, the STAR, MAP, just list those standardized tests for us, but we really would like to see a teacher-developed assessment. I know that, a lot of our programs are heavy in the online curriculum, but we talk often about blended learning and how some direct instruction should be taking place. So we would like to see how you're assessing that information that's coming from the direct instruction portion of your instructional day. So that's something we would really like to see. And the next required bit of documentation is very, very different. So I want to park here for just a little bit. What Peggy and I see oftentimes when we go in to do the monitoring and we look at the documentation, if we look at evidence in there, a lot of times we could see that it appears as though there's only one teacher, because everything that's been submitted in documentation has come from the same teacher. So what we want to do is we want to give all of the teachers some ownership into the monitoring process and have each teacher develop a folder with some things in it to forward to the administrator so they can upload in the documentation. Everybody needs to have ownership in this process and take part in the monitoring process, because it is for your whole program. So taking a look at it, in each teacher's folder, There should be their teaching certificate. We should see professional development lists, lesson plans, and then student work that matches that lesson plan. For example, if I'm teaching math and doing a lesson on distributive property, I would also have to submit that sample work that went along with that lesson plan, just to see, just to see how the lesson plans are, the assignments are matching the learning targets in the lesson plans. So we're just kind of looking for that. Student writing samples, that writing is huge and it's so important. So we want to see some writing samples from each teacher's class, 1 or 2, the teacher's schedule, and then the type of curriculum for each class. That means, are they teaching that with an online program? Is that Plato? Is it Apex? Is it Edgenuity? And is it direct instruction? If you have elective classes, maybe provide a syllabus for that, scoring guide, rubrics. We'd also like to see classroom rules and procedures, and then if any extra roles or responsibilities, for example, if they serve as the building assessment coordinator, or if they're on the safety committee, or anything like that that is an extra role or responsibility, we would like to know that. And again, this teacher folder is just a way for everybody to have input into this process. And again, that would be forwarded to the administrator or whoever compiles the documentation to be submitted, and then all of those are uploaded. Now, I know that we have some large, very large programs, and we have some very small programs. So in the small programs, each teacher's folder will probably get a look. But in some of the larger programs, if time allows, we'll look at all of them. But Peggy and I may have to pick and choose, certain folders, say we're going to look at 5. But still, we want everybody to be a part of the process. So that's really different this year. So hopefully, I think it's going to be a good thing. I think it really is. And then this year, the administrator will also compile a folder, and whether that's an administrator, principal, head teacher, it's going to include things like your ELA hours, any professional development records that you don't get ELA hours for, but you do have professional development, evidence of required trainings happening in your building. For example, suicide prevention is required by the state to be conducted. Bullying is required by the state to be conducted, and we would like to see evidence that you have done those trainings with the kids. Your certification, SACSA certificates for the fall and spring meetings, and any other state documents like licenses, permits, certifications, those types of things. And that would all be in an administrator's folder. Then here we go with report cards and transcripts. I was afraid I would miss it, so I wanted to hit it earlier. But we would like 4 sample student report cards and 4 student transcripts. Again, varying grade levels would be great. But we need to, again, ensure that names and identifying information are redacted before you share them online. That's just very, very important. Meeting records. A lot of times we get lots and lots and lots of meeting records, and it's kind of cumbersome. So we would like to see 2 meeting documentation evidence, such as agendas, minutes, attendance, and things like treatment team meetings, partner agency meetings, staff meetings, transition meetings. All of those types of things are what we're looking for here in just 2 examples. And again, that could be agendas, minutes, attendance, anything like that. Safety drill records for an educational program. There seems to be some confusion when you have a residential program. And if we looked this up, because this was something that really we wanted to make sure we were on 100% correct, because safety is so important we have to be super vigilant in the safety of our students. And even though if you have a residential program, these drills have to occur during the school day. I know some people think, oh, well, the residential staff takes care of that at 4 p.m. Well, that doesn't meet the regulations because it states that these have to occur during the school day. So really, you need to ensure that these are happening: fire, earthquake, tornado, lockdown, intruder. On our website, there are going to be some templates of like checklists for this. There'll be a place where you can see and actually check it off. You'll put a date, you can put the time, how long it took you to do that. But safety is so important. So we want to ensure that's happening. So that's why we're asking for that as a required. Next is your behavior intervention plan. What are you doing with expectations and rewards? Some people call it PBIS. But, give us an overview of your behavior intervention plan. What are the expectations and what happens if you meet them or not? So, just give us a good broad overview of what you're doing in that regard. The next one, evidence of meeting new graduation requirements. There are so many new ones, and sometimes we get stuck in what used to be. Well, we didn't used to have to do that, or, that's not how we've always done it. But this is one of those times where it's very important that, we are getting our kids headed in the right direction for graduation. Some of our programs, you may only have kids for a couple of days, but some of them, like our day treatments, you have them for a semester or so. So we need to see what you're doing that is moving them toward, meeting those requirements. And, a course syllabus, a list of activities, what are you doing for your lab-based sciences? What are you doing for career technical pathways? What's that look like? Are you given the civics test? Do you have financial literacy there within your program? Performance-based competency and technology, what's that look like in your program? For a long time, we didn't get answers about, what are we supposed to do about this, or what are we supposed to do about that? This graduation, that requirement, that graduation requirement. And really, we've kind of had to build the ship while we're sailing it. But we need to see that those things are occurring. So what's it look like in your building? And then we also want to see some evidence of data analysis, and that could be spreadsheets, documents, notes. But analyzing your student data is what allows you to improve your program. Because if you don't know whether your students are growing, then how do you know what you're doing is working? So we really need to see some evidence that this is occurring in your building. And again, it can be spreadsheets, documentation, notes, anything like that that shows some analysis of data. So that's an overview of the requireds. But now let's take a look at some of the bonus evidence. And again, these are things we've always asked for, but have never, we just don't know where they go. So again, we're making this easier for you. Administrator growth plans, you can add that as a bonus. A lot of people will have student or community citizens, community advisory committees, anything where you bring outside people in and discuss your program, that have a part in assisting in your program. Include that. Your student handbook is something you can include as a bonus. IPIs, if you have mentoring or tutoring programs, put those in. Your mission and belief statement is another option for a bonus. Social skills and treatment curriculum. Now, let me say, we don't want to see Johnny is working on this, that, or the other, but just give us in very general terms what treatment curriculum that you're using or what social skills curriculum you are using. We don't need to see things with student names on it. If you're fortunate enough to have volunteers, let's see give us what activities they're conducting and what schedules when they come in. Web-based instructional resources that support instruction. That sounds kind of wordy. So like if you guys use like Reading 360, I think that's one. Oh gosh. Like Study Island, that might be another one that you use to support instruction. But any of those web-based programs that you use to supplement your instruction, include those. We like to, oftentimes Peggy and I will go into a program and they say, well, what's somebody else using for, math enrichment? And we can go back and look and say, well, this program over here uses Moby Max, so it's good to be able to share ideas. Student recognitions and rewards. Do you have a student of the month or a student of the week? Did somebody knock it out of the park on like reading books? Did you have graduates, honor rolls? Let's see when you're bragging on the kids. I think that's awesome. Records transfer. Give me a sample of your procedures. Like how does that happen? Is it all on IC or do you what's the procedure for that? Surveys, where you're looking for the opinions of parents, students, teachers in order to improve your program. Let's see it. That's great. Library access and procedures. A lot of times we'll go in and when we tour your facilities, you have your beautiful library, and we interview the kids, they say, we don't ever go to the library. So, talk to us about, library procedure. How often do they get to go? Do they get to, how many books can they check out? We just like to see them having access to those books, particularly in residential facilities, because a lot of times that library is just like a lifeline for them. Communication records. This might include like sample communication from the district, showing their support. You might include something with your partner agencies if you've got something coming up and you want to get an okay from them. Any district level communications. Testing comes to mind, like when you're getting ready for testing, they're always back and forth with you on that. And any communications with parent or guardians, like we've got open house coming up, we'd love to see you. Those kinds of things are what we talked about there in the communication records. And the last one is the bragging folder. And, if you're doing great things, let us know. And we are all hesitant to talk about the great things we're doing. But sometimes that's the only way we know is if you tell us, because we're only there 1 out of your 210 days. So, if you all happen to have a big field day or something, and it doesn't happen to be the day I'm there, which it wouldn't be, but, put some pictures in, talk about it. Guest speakers, if the kids are doing projects, like I think about somebody was making roller coasters out of drinking straws or something like that. But, put those pictures in. The kids, anytime they're doing hands-on stuff like that, put it in. Special event months like Women's History, Black History Month, project-based learning, all of that. Let's see it because, those are the kinds of things that, get the kids excited, and we would love to see those things. So that is, in a nutshell, what we're going to be asking you to provide. and we're going to be doing it differently. So I want to show you on Google how we can do that. Now, before we start, I want to talk a little bit about sharing things on Google. Peggy and I, we like to look at this documentation probably the day before we come to your program so that we have your program fresh on our mind. And sometimes we get in and we have to request permission to access those files. And that makes it very difficult. So when you are sharing your Google Drive with us and your evidence, make sure that you share it in such a way that permission's not required. That will hold us up, and it's just cumbersome, and then you don't see it, and then we can't see it, and it's just a mess. And then the second thing I want to talk about sharing documentation on Google is sharing it so that we can delete it once we are finished and you have your report in your hand. I don't want to have, and I'm sure Peggy doesn't either, I don't want to have access to all of that information, some of it being confidential, even though names are redacted. I'm not comfortable having that information on my computer. I would love to be able, just once I have completed my report, it's gone to the office and the office has sent it back to you. I would love to be able to delete that so that I just would feel much better about it if I could take it off of my computer, and that way there's no question about confidentiality and anything like that. So if you would please make it that, number one, we don't have to ask permission to look at it, and number two, be able to delete it once we have everything complete. So what's that look like on Google? All right, I'm glad you asked. So here, let me share my screen again. So I'm going to go down. Okay, so here we are in Google Drive, and I'm going to start compiling my evidence digitally. So I'm going to go up here on my Google Drive, and I'm going to hit New, and I'm going to say a new folder. And here's one thing I would love everybody to do. I would love for you to start with my program name, and then 2122 KEXAC documentation. And we're going to create a folder. Okay? So now I have my program, and the reason I want you to leave with my program name is because Peggy and I both have 39 programs. And if you start with KEXAC documentation, then you actually have to open up all of those, and this just makes it much more streamlined if you'll begin with your program name. So that's the reason behind that. So then you'll open up that particular folder, and I'm going to make another folder, and I'm going to do that by right-clicking, and I'm going to choose New Folder. And I'm going to call this folder Required Evidence. And I'm creating that folder. Okay? Now then, we have lots of required information, lots of required documentation. So under that required evidence, each time I'm going to create a new folder, I think. Hold on. Oh, I have to open it first. I'm sorry. I'm going to open that folder, and I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it one of those pieces of evidence that I need. For example, I need the Memorandum of Agreement. So I'm going to create a folder called MOA. And what you will do is you will upload your MOA into that folder, and then we'll be able to click on it and say, oh yeah, there's the MOA. And we can scroll down and look at your extended calendar. I know we always ask for extended calendar. Well, we're not going to ask for that now because it's going to be in your MOA. I know we always ask for budgets, and we're not going to ask for that anymore because it's going to be in your MOA, and we can just open it and look at it from there. So again, that's another way to kind of save you some time and trouble. So after that, okay, so I'm in my required evidence folder, and I'm going to make a new folder because I have another piece of required information, and that's going to be, I need report cards and transcripts. And I'm going to create that folder. And there it is. And so then I will go in and you upload report cards, 4 of them, transcripts, 4 of them, and then you're finished. Then we'll go back to required evidence, and you'll continue making folders in the required evidence part until you have everything completed and uploaded. Then there were also bonuses, right? So I'm going to go back to my original big folder, and I'm going to create another folder, and I'm going to call that bonus evidence. Okay, and so one of the things in bonus evidence was administrator growth plan. So I'm going to click on required evidence. I'm going to open it up. Oh, I lied. I'm going to go back and I'm going to click on bonus evidence. I'm sorry. And in that bonus evidence, I'm going to create a new folder. And I know one of those was administrator growth plan. And I'm going to create. And that you'll go in and upload your growth plan. Another bonus was surveys. Going to create that folder. And you could go in and upload any surveys you did. So again, the compilation of this is not any different other than you're going to share it so that we don't need permission, and you're going to share it so that we can delete that when we get finished with it. Now let's talk about sending it. Okay, so here is my file that has my documentation, and I want to share that I'm going to share it with Peggy. So you would find your folder, highlight it, right-click it, and go up to share. And it's preparing it. And then you add people or groups. So I'm going to share it with Peggy. I share a lot with Peggy because she came right up. So anyway, I would say a message like, here is my documentation. And then all you have to do is hit send. And now Peggy's got all of my documentation, that there is nothing in my folders. But anyway, you will have things in your folders. And just so you know, we want to do all of the documentation digitally this year, and we still would like to see it in our inboxes a week in advance. So that's everything that I have for you as far as new documentation, what's required, how you compile it, how you send it. This training video is going to be on the KECSAC website under Program Improvement, so you can go back and reference it. And you may even want to share it with your staff so they get a better understanding of the monitoring process and kind of what the expectation for them will be. So if you have any questions or concern, please feel free to reach out to me, Angela Austin at eku.edu. And I'd love to talk to you. My number is 270-993-5775. And before I let you go, there are examples of a lot of those templates that we're going to put a new lesson plan template on the website. The drill schedule and requirements and checkoff sheet is on the website. Graduation checklist, credit checklist, all of those things, check on our website, the KEXAC website, under Program Improvement. Hope you have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you in person, and I know Peggy does too. So have a great day, and we'll see you soon.